Now this video is a little longer than usual, but given the topic, I would strongly encourage you, if you can, please watch it to the end. Now to me, this certainly looks like a conflict of interest, but I'll let you be the judge. The Post Millennial recently reported that a pharmaceutical maker of puberty blockers funded the original granddaddy study that led to gender-affirming care for minors, the Dutch study. So, how did we finally come to learn of this? Well, all thanks to a Dutch investigative report which has revealed that the 2006 study upon which the entire medical experiment of child sex changes is based and promoted was funded by a pharmaceutical company that is a maker of puberty blockers. The findings of the investigative report were published in an NRC article on December 31st, and it takes aim at the treatment approach known as the Dutch protocol, which involves blocking the puberty of adolescents who are suffering from gender dysphoria and forms the basis for the gender-affirming care model adopted by pediatric gender clinics all over the world. Now, I put a link to the original Post Millennial story as well as a link to the story they cited, the Dutch NRC. Now, the story in the NRC is in Dutch. However, if you use Google Translate and put the web page and the link into it, you can read the translated version in English. Now, according to investigative journalist Jan Coutenbrouwer and media sociologist Peter Westerman, authors of the NRC article, the scientific underpinnings of the Dutch protocol turn out to be pretty shaky. A little background for those of you who are not familiar with this. The research that is always cited as justification for clinics adopting the affirmative model of care and fast-tracking children onto these questionable experimental drugs consists of one Dutch study. That's it, with results published in 2011 and 2014. Now, you would think that given the magnitude of what is being done here, the researchers must have based it on a large control group. Sure, if you consider 55 children to be a large control group. Yes, you heard me correctly. This research followed 55 children first treated with puberty blockers and then with cross-sex hormones who, according to researchers, reported positive results 18 months later. That's only 18 months, folks. That does not make it a longitudinal study, one that measures at way longer periods over time. Given it's 2023, that was essentially 17 years ago. Where are these people today? The article states over and over that this study has been discredited numerous times due to the lack of a control group, the number of participants who were lost to follow-up, the short follow-up period, and certain other key methodological flaws. Stella O'Malley, co-founder of GenSpect, recently called the decision not to offer regular follow-ups for this cohort extraordinary to the point of suspicious. Well, I would definitely have to concur. One of the participants in this landmark study even died from the complications of the so-called gender-affirming surgery, which led O'Malley to question why this did not put an end to this, medical experiment on children essentially right away, or at least lead to more questions. Well, this might be a clue. The NRC report isn't the first time the connection has been made between Ferring Pharmaceuticals, which funded the 2006 study that set loose this medical experiment onto the world. In 2018, Transgender Trend, a group that has been at the forefront of campaigning for evidence-based care in gender clinics, published a blog post revealing that the Amsterdam clinic was financially supported in its experiment project to block puberty in gender dysphoric adolescents by a pharmaceutical company which stood to make commercial gains from their new protocol. Would have been good to know, no? Now, you would think this little tidbit might have led those that practice gender medicine from blindly adopting the protocol of puberty suppression. Well, given the questionable conflict of interest after all, well, you would be wrong. When you're living in the age of the speed of science and the speed of profit, not fully fleshing out the potential health risks of halting a young person's development at such a crucial stage of their life, well, is really the loving thing to do, right? One of the major concerns ignored by gender-affirming doctors is the fact that puberty blockers haven't turned out to be the pause button that they were intended to be, but are instead, as Kutenbauer and Westerman put it, a self-fulfilling prophecy. How so? Well, it has been long observed that almost all children who are put on puberty blockers go on to take cross-sex hormones, meaning that the drugs are better thought of as a start switch for further medical transition, which of course leads to profit for you-know-who. In the past, most children would desist, meaning get over it, and come to accept their birth sex after going through puberty, if not affirmed and put on a medical pathway, like countless millions who came before them. According to the emotional impact of such a life-changing decision, adding to the emotional impact of such a life-changing decision is the ever-expanding list of side effects of these drugs, from impaired bone formation to infertility and loss of sexual function. The FDA also recently added a warning to its label that the drugs can cause a dangerous swelling of the brain. Kutenbauer and Westerman also note concerns that the treatment can interfere with the ability to make rational decisions. So, given this last fact, how much credibility should we give those who are promoting this on the basis of their own personal experience, having lived through it recently or in the last few years? When this experiment began, the number of children suffering from gender dysphoria and seeking medical treatment was astonishingly small, and almost all were male children who had experienced extreme gender distress from an early age. But what Westerman and Kutenbauer point to is the sudden explosion in the number of children and adolescents seeking care at gender clinics, the majority of whom are teenage girls whose gender dysphoria appeared suddenly at puberty. To put this in context, until 2010, gender clinics saw approximately 60 children a year, whereas in 2022, 1,600 were receiving treatment and a further 1,800 were on a waiting list. Like other countries, this sudden surge occurred around 2013, which coincides precisely with the dawn of the modern trans rights movement and the rise of popularity of smartphones and social media. Now, trans activists and proponents of gender-affirming care explain this surge as being the result of greater societal acceptance of transgender people. But Kutenbauer and Westerman, as well as many experts, question why this would have affected only teenage girls, the very demographic known to be most susceptible to social contagions. They also highlighted the sharply rising number of detransitioners as a reason to put the Dutch protocol and gender-affirming care under scrutiny, and point to the independent reviews undertaken by Sweden, Finland, and England that caused each nation to pivot away from the affirmative model of care and back to a psychotherapeutic approach to treating these vulnerable young people. Bottom line, for you who are supporters of this, I would beg you to look at this logically and detached of emotion. I know you want to do the loving thing here for the kids, so do I. But is it really loving to turn their entire world upside down based on a flawed study, which comprised of 55 kids, hardly a large control group, one that has no longitudinal timeline? They were only followed for 18 months. What happened to them? Well, where are they today? Given this was done in 2006, we should know what happened to this original 55. Lastly, do you not have any skepticism or pangs of doubt about the results as presented, or concerns about the safety of the kids, given the study was funded by a company that produces products, the very same products that the study ultimately promoted? Is there really nothing to see here? Should we just move on? Anyway, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Please post any comments you have in the comment section. You can also follow me in my Rumble and my Locals account. Subscribe to my Rumbles because YouTube occasionally doesn't like topics such as this, and lo and behold, you disappear. So I, again, encourage you, please post any comments, anything you have. Check out some of my past videos, and I will see you next time.